Hey y'all, welcome to Pleiadian Point of View. I'm Peyton with Peyton Energetics, and I'm a Pleiadian channel and starseed coach. So in today's point of view, I asked the Pleiadians to clarify something that I'm seeing a lot of confusion about in the comments. So I've noticed in the comment section lately, there is a lot of confusion over how do we handle, as lightworkers and starseeds, some of the negative events that we're seeing in the world. How do we handle that appropriately? Because there is a lot of confusion as to how should we respond to some of the incredible just nastiness that we're seeing in the world around us. And I'm noticing that this is causing a lot of confusion. So in today's video, I've asked the Pleiadians to walk us through this. What do we do as the awakened community, as some of the things are being revealed in our world that are pretty hard to stomach? Because we know that we don't want to be in denial about it. So this is one thing that we get a little backwards in the spiritual community. We have taken the advice of our spiritual teachers to think positively, to look on the bright side, to always find the good in the situation. And that's gotten a little mangled. Because what has happened as a result of these teachings, which of course are some of our core spiritual teachings, is that we have used this instruction and turned it into a tendency to deny and suppress. So this in the spiritual community can often look like a refusal to look at anything negative, to deny that it is happening, to suppress it when it comes up within ourselves, or to distract ourselves from it, to turn to substances to numb ourselves. So this is one of the ways we go a little sideways in the spiritual community, is by just putting blinders on and refusing to look at the darkness in the world and the darkness in ourselves. And that's not what our spiritual teachers have been talking about. And especially the Pleiadians are never encouraging us to deny or suppress anything. Because when we deny or suppress something or refuse to look at it, the energy is still there. It's like a knot in our energy field. And as long as that energy is there, it continues to manifest. It's like a musical note that just keeps playing. So we never want to deny or suppress anything, to look the other way, to say that's not real, because what is happening is we can tend to put ourselves into suppression mode. And the more we suppress things, the stronger that energy gets. And the stronger it gets, the more it erupts at the worst possible time in our lives. So what the guides are actually saying when we see these negative events in the world is, first off, we want to make sure we are not suppressing them. Now, something else that we tend to do when we see negative events in the world around us is get mad, right? Or get into fear. This is our normal human reaction to some of the just abuse we are seeing in the world right now. And here is what is going on when we get mad at things, because as humans, our mind thinks that if we are shouting in anger and screaming the word no, we are rejecting something. But from an energetic perspective, the exact opposite is happening. The more we are inflamed with emotion, with our righteous and often very justified anger, the more we feed that thing. That's what we don't realize. The word no means nothing to the universe. The universe is only looking at our energy. And so if it sees that we are looking at this news story and getting really angry, we are putting a lot of energy on that thing, which the universe interprets as, hey, she wants more of this, right? So this is what happens when we look at what is happening, which, y'all, it is not easy. There are so many of the things that are going on right now that are triggers for me, that set my hair on fire. So we are not saying that this is easy, but as we are looking at things, if we are staying for a long time in the energy of anger or fear, we are feeding that thing. We are adding to it in the world. That is just energetically how it works. Now, the Pleiadians are never encouraging us to ignore our feelings. So if we see something happening and it understandably makes us angry, we want to feel that emotion. But here is the catch. The Pleiadians say we only have to feel an emotion for about 45 seconds to actually process it so that we're not suppressing it. So allowing us we hear that news story, it sets our hair on fire. Sitting with our anger for about a minute allows us to free up the energy of anger that we are holding. That keeps us from suppressing the energy. Now, the important thing is we don't want to take a bath in it. So we do not want to sit in that state of anger for a long time. So if this is something that you find that you are stewing about for hours after you saw that news story, you have gotten out of the phase of processing the energy, which only takes about a minute, and you have gotten into judgment with it. That's how the Pleiadians say this works. So we want to allow ourselves to feel the negative emotions that come up with anything we are seeing. So allow yourself to feel that fear for a minute, literally only a minute, or to experience the anger from some of the injustice we are seeing, some of the abuse we are seeing, because by allowing yourself to feel it for a short period of time, you let the energy move through you. And that is our goal. We want the emotions to move through us. Where we get stuck as lightworkers and starseeds is we either don't allow ourselves to feel it, so we suppress, or we sit in it for hours. And all that happens is we have moved out of the phase of processing the emotion, allowing it to do its job, which is to show us something we don't prefer. And we have gotten into judgment about it. So if we are staying angry at a news story for a long time, and y'all, there are some news stories that I was mad about for a year. So this is not something that's necessarily easy for us to do, but it's something that we're retraining ourselves on. So if we are staying angry for a long period of time about anything, we are feeding that issue. We are making it stronger. We are adding to it in the world. And that's the opposite of what we want to be doing, right? We want to be starving these programs, but we want to be doing that in a way where we're not compacting the energy within our energy field, because that's what happens when we deny it, we suppress it, we numb ourselves to it, or any of the other things that we like to do to avoid looking at our shadow. And it's just our shadow that's being reflected in the world. So then what do we want to do with these issues once we have gone through that minute or so period of allowing ourselves to sit with how it makes us feel? Because again, that keeps the energy fluid. It keeps it moving through you. So what the P's always suggest with these triggering events that we are seeing around us is to take that thing or that person and bring it into your heart space, just with your imagination. Imagine you are pulling a little miniature version of that person or that event into your heart. Because here's what happens when you do that. A couple things happen that are really, really powerful. First off, you strip the negative imprinting from that energy. So you strip off of that event the fear, the anger, the abuse, just by bringing it into your heart space. This is what we call the integration or the transmutation of energy. Another thing that happens as you bring that thing into your heart and send it love, no matter how much you don't want to do that, what happens is you acknowledge that it is your creation. Because the ego mind, when it wants to scream no and be in anger and hatred about whatever it is that we see that is often very justifiably, puts us in anger and fear and hatred. When we bring that into our heart, we acknowledge that we created it. Because as the P's say all the time, we are all one consciousness. You are God consciousness. You created it all. And so the ego mind wants to separate ourselves. That's how we stayed in 3D, is the ego mind made that bad person separate from me. And we want to do the opposite, right? So when you pull that person or that news story into your heart and you acknowledge that this is your creation, you stand back in your power. Because a lot of times as we look at these scary stories, we start to feel very powerless. And that's why the Matrix works the way it does. Why our mainstream cranks out stories that 24/7 put us in anger and put us in fear, because that keeps us in a low vibration. And all that does, it keeps the 3D game going. And we want to stop that, right? Aren't we kind of done with that? So as you start to pull these things into your heart, you start to transmute this energy, not just for you, so that it is not in your personal reality. You do it for the entire human collective. This is how you starve the monster. But just remember, if you are looking at these things and screaming no and getting angry and getting into hatred, you are feeding it. That's just energetically how it works. And our ego mind doesn't like to hear about this, right? The ego mind wants to make us separate from that bad person, from that bad thing that's happening. We like to get into our righteous indignation. But when we do that, we just stay in the energy of separation. And energy is never good or bad. But when we are in the energy of separation, we are in the energy of 3D. When you start to bring everything into your heart, you start to do a massive cleanup project, not only for your own life, because as you start to purify some of these things that we have been fighting on this planet for so long, you do a massive house cleaning, not only for yourself, but for everyone. You are standing in your God consciousness when you do this. You are taking yourself out of separation. And that is how we move into fifth dimensional energies. So just a little perspective shift from the P's. This is a really important point, you guys, because our ego mind doesn't want us to do this. Our ego mind wants to stay fighting with that story, but that just keeps us in 3D energies. So hopefully this will help you shift your perspective on your triggers and use them in a way that not only heals yourself, but heals our entire collective. So let me know in the comments below, how are you doing in these very trigger heavy times? Let me know in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget, hit the subscribe button and the like button if you haven't done that yet. I'll see you soon. Bye.